Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in the classes on Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:16-11. Mandaraha Meru Mandaraha Suparshvaha Kumudaha Iti Ayuta Yojana Vistara Unnaha Mero Chatuhdisham Avashtambha Giraya Upaklipta. Mandaro Meru Mandara Suparshvaha Kumuda Itya Yutayojana Vistarunnaha Meros Chaturdisham Avashtambha Giraya Upaklipta. Mandaraha, the mountain named Mandara. Meru Mandara, the mountain named Meru Mandara. Suparshvaha, the mountain named Suparshva. Kumudaha, the mountain named Kumuda. Iti, thus. Ayuta Yojana Vistara Unnaha, which measure 10,000 yojanas high and wide. Mero of Sumeru, Chatuhdisham, the four sides. Avashtambha Giraya, mountains that are like the belts of Sumeru. Upaklipta, situated. Translation by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. On the four sides of the great mountain known as Sumeru are four mountains, Mandara, Meru Mandara, Suparshva and Kumuda, which are like its belts. The length and height of these mountains are calculated to be 10,000 yojanas or 80,000 miles. Please repeat. On the four sides of the great mountain known as Sumeru are four mountains, Mandara, Meru Mandara, Suparshva and Kumuda, which are like its belts. The length and height of these mountains are calculated to be 10,000 yojanas or 80,000 miles. Okay. We will probably read the next one. We'll just read the next one. 5:16-12. चतुर्श्वेतेषु चूतजम्बू कदम्बन्यग्रोधाश्चत्वारः पादपप्रवराः पर्वतकेतव इवातिसहस्रयोजनोन्नाहास्तावद्विटपविततयः शतयोजनपरिणाहाः. Standing like flagstaffs on the summits of these four mountains are a mango tree, a rose apple tree, a kadamba tree, and a banyan tree. Those trees are calculated to have a width of 100 yojanas or 800 miles and a height of 1,100 yojanas or 8,800 miles. Their branches also spread to a radius of 1,100 yojanas. Om Ajnanatimiraandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthāpitam Yena Bhūtale Swayam Rūpah Kadāmahyam Dadāti Svapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudhapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rūpam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sandho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Mansakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So some measurements are given here. So the Bhūmandala is a flat plain that is, I think, until the Lokalok mountain, if I'm not wrong. It is stretching, and at the center is the Meru mountain, the Sumeru mountain, which is golden, which is like an inverted cone. I think you must have read all that. Inverted cone. Mountain of gold, and 100,000 yojanas high, of which 20,000 yojanas are on the ground and 80,000 are above. And surrounding that is this mountain ranges. Although it is mentioned here, it's like, here it's what? Yeah. So actually there is a depiction of the Bhūmandala according to the Puranic description. So it is like this Meru mountain, and then mountain ranges on all four sides. There are these Meru Mandara, Suparshva and Kumuda are the main mountain ranges, and apart from that there are parallel mountain ranges also. So there was this nice comment. I do not know if the acharyas made it or who made it, where I read it. So the picture of this Jambu Dvipa, where this mountain and there and then the surrounding mountains, it looks like, you know what? The Yajna Kunda. On four sides there are four bricks, and then in center there is this fire. So it signifies that this land of Bharata, or the Bhumandala, the Bhūloka, is actually the land of sacrifice. It's a land of sacrifice where we are supposed to, in fact, you see in the heavenly planets, it's not very conducive for sacrifice. It's too much enjoyment and there's too much distraction because of it. And that is explained here, 5:19, 20, actually 22 to 26. We'll see 22, we'll see. Kim dushkarairna kratubhistapho vratair danadibhirvadyujayena phalguna nayatra narayana padapankaja smriti pramushta atishaya indriyotsavat. Atishaya indriya utsavat. Utsava means festival. Indriya means senses. A festival of the senses. Basically, hedonism is going on now in the heavenly planets. I think in the Western countries there are things like Oktoberfest, right? It's a complete sense gratification, right? Drinking. So that is Indriya Utsava, festival of the senses. We celebrate festival of the Lord. They celebrate Indriya Utsava, Atishaya Indriya Utsava, not just ordinary festival. Atishaya means, you know what is Atishaya? Extraordinary measure, right? Excessive, you see, Atishaya. Excessive material sense gratification. Indriya means sense gratification. Indriya, senses. Utsava means festival of the senses. Excessive festival of the senses. Where is it? In the heavenly planets. But how did they get there, these heavenly denizens? Kratubhi, by performances of sacrifice. What is the value? See, Kratubhi means sacrifice, tapa, austerities, vrata, vows, dana means charitable activities, charity. Where did they do that? Here on the Bhūloka. Okay, let's read the translation of this first. The demigods continue. After performing the very difficult tasks of executing Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, undergoing austerities, observing vows and giving charity, we have achieved this position as inhabitants of the heavenly planets. But what is the value of this achievement? Here we are certainly very engaged in material sense gratification, and therefore we can hardly remember the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. Indeed, because of our excessive sense gratification, we have almost forgotten his lotus feet. So actually my point is, this place, Bhūloka, is the place of sacrifice, and the whole structure of the Bhūloka with the golden mountain in the center and the mountain ridges on four sides looks like that Yajna Kunda, which reminds us that this Bhūloka is meant for a life of sacrifice. And it's symbolic, even in its structure. And in the heavenly planets, such opportunity is not there. There is opportunity more for sense gratification, but Prabhupada also said in one morning walk, there is a recording of that as well, where he said that this planet has just the right combination of happiness and suffering. If it's too much suffering, it's too much bodily pain. Suppose somebody is just cutting you open in hell and burning you in the burning oil or fire, it's so hard to remember Krishna because of the excessive pain. Pure devotees can, but imagine you're in the fire. It's just so difficult. And when we have excessive sense gratification, so why is it difficult in the painful situation? Because pain is so excessive that it's such a big distraction that we cannot remember Krishna. And the heavenly planets, the enjoyment is such a big distraction that we cannot remember Krishna. So Prabhupada said this planet has just the right combination of happiness and distress, so that we are not too distracted by either, especially in human form of life, so that we can actually think about Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Matra sparshasta kaunteya shita ushna sukha dukkadaha agama payano nityas tam sutiksha sukha. He asks us to tolerate suffering and happiness. You know, the tolerance itself takes a lot of spiritual strength. So when we are faced with excessive sense gratification, which is like what is happening right now with the smartphone era for the last 15 years or 18 years to be accurate. For the last 18 years, I think 2007 was when the first iPhone was unveiled by Steve Jobs. But he did a bad job. I mean, good job at what he did, but bad for the ultimate upliftment of mankind. I mean, there are advantages and the disadvantages. Actually, there is nothing good or bad. Are the heavenly planets bad? Not really. Are the hellish planets bad? Not really. Nothing is really bad. Is the material world bad? Not really. But what is bad is our sense gratification, is our desire for sense gratification. Because if the same tool is given in the hands of Prabhupada, for example, imagine he was dealing with a worldwide movement with letters, hardly any phone calls, forget about messaging, any phone calls at all. I mean, he had a phone, he got disgusted in 2 days, and that famous audio is there. So he was disgusted with so much distraction. At midnight they were calling him, because time zone difference, they don't care, they're just calling him. How are you, Prabhupada? Prabhupada was saying, is this the right time to call? What is this? Oh, sorry, Prabhupada. So, with letters and with traveling, just physically traveling, he was managing the whole worldwide movement. Imagine he had the access to social media at that time. Imagine Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had the access to social media. There is always the right way to use it, and then there is the wrong way to use it. There is always a tightrope we have to walk between using it for sense gratification, using it for Krishna. And there's a lot of distraction that comes with social media. And of course, now we have live streaming going on social media, which is some respite, at least. They say, oh, if not for this, how can your Bhagavatam message be spread? Well, it can be actually spread more effectively. You know how? Because if there was no internet, and of course, if there were devotees everywhere, that's the key point, then people can actually go to the temple in their own locality and hear Bhagavatam. Now, because of this, at least it is better for those people who are just stuck at home and far away from any temple to come and join. But if there was no distraction, maybe we can have more temples, more devotees, and more opportunity to actually associate with devotees and actually hear Bhagavatam. But anyway, only devotees can benefit others by this technology. And that too if they're actually devotees. Otherwise, even nowadays, even for devotees, it's a big distraction, these smartphones. Hardly any time is spent on actual reading. Like here we have these things on the screen now, these verses. I feel, this is my opinion, but it's good for propagation because it's easy to show. You can't bring the whole Bhagavatam, the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita here and bring it in front of the camera. Here is the verse, and that is the verse. We can't. That's a bit too cumbersome. A lot more cumbersome. But this is easier. Just search and show. But for reading, for one's own Swadhyaya, this is a lecture. What is Swadhyaya? Haribol. What is Swadhyaya? Don't even bother. Huh? See? Self-study. Adhyayan means study. Swa means self. Swartham, Swartha. Swarthagatim Vishnu. Artha means purpose. Swartha means self-purpose, self-interest. What is your ultimate goal? So Swadhyaya, you should understand closely. So pay attention. Swadhyaya means self-study. So when you're self-studying, book is the best way. All these devices, yeah, there are books, there are also so many other things. Niranam Santi Sahasrashaha is there. What is that? This is there. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.2 Shrotavyadini Rajendra Niranam Santi Sahasrashaha Apashyatam Atmatattvam Graheshu Grahamedhinam. Those persons who are materially engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society. What is that? Niranam Santi Sahasrashaha Shrotavyadini Sahasrashaha. Hundreds and thousands. Shrotavya Adini. Shrotavya means subject matters for hearing. Shrota. Shruti means hearing. Shrotavya means subject matters for hearing. What is Shrotavya? Huh? For inquiring. Where is your notebook? Don't come to the class without a notebook. Apashyatam Atmatattvam. They don't see. So these Shrotavya Sahasrashaha, thousands of subject matters are there on the phone. Unlimited. You can go on scrolling, it's called doom scrolling. Until you die, you can scroll, it will never end. That many subject matters in the human society. Usually, previously, you have to go to different physical spaces to interact with people of different ideologies or ideas. You need to go to a soccer club to discuss about soccer or play soccer or learn about. You have to go to martial arts school to actually learn and talk about martial arts, or you have to go to a business meeting to do that. You have to go to a school to learn this. Now everything is just here. You don't have to go anywhere. Is it good or bad? Bad. Because your association, it's good if it is Krishna consciousness. Still it's not a replacement for a brick and mortar temple, a physical temple. It's just a concession for somebody who doesn't have anything. It's just a concession. But physical study, books are the best because there's no distraction. You will get no notification from it. Nobody will talk to you anything except the book talking to you about Krishna. And that's all. You're having a conversation with Prabhupada and Krishna. That's it. That's all you're doing. So, anyway, on this Bhūloka, there's just the right amount of happiness and distress. But with the advancement of material life, the opportunity for sense gratification is increasing. The opportunity for tapasya is decreasing. For example, I had to cook. Now, tick, 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 and one delivery guy will come and you don't have to cook anything. You can just enjoy your senses to the max. Here, the app is called, I don't know what Australian app is. There, Uber, we have Uber there in Australia. Here, Uber was there, now it's Grab. Food Panda, Grab. So, I always say this, Grab. So the lion grabs its food with claws and teeth. We grab our food with Grab food. So, how is it so different from the animals? Not very, but we just have more opportunities for sense gratification. The lion has to, it's not that it's ferocious, it can just kill anyone. It has to fight for it. Sometimes it will be injured terribly, sometimes even die in that hunt for the animal, for food.
Becoming
Lazy. So there is more opportunity for the lion has to do some tapasya to get the food. We are grab. So there's too much sense gratification. So what we will do if we have that much sense gratification, then we will forget. In fact, it should be that now we have more time for Krishna consciousness. But no. First of all, we eat that food, we get, go to hell first. But all these so-called convenience, actually, where is that? There is a purport where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur or Prabhupada mentions that this convenience of material life is actually a disadvantage. The less convenience there is, not the too much inconvenience, like unnecessarily complicating our life, but people used to live with nature. The brahmacharis, the sages, they used to go to the forest. Kardama Muni was there in the forest for 10,000 years. I mean, all kinds of wild animals you have to deal with, all kinds of insects, and what sort of, the ecosystem is so wild. In fact, I watched this experience. I was fascinated because this man, his name, I forgot his name, he was on a podcast. So he was in the Amazon rainforest for 6 years. He's from the city, I mean, a normal guy, but he went to the Amazon rainforest and lived there for about 6 years. And then off and on, he still goes there and he takes people there. Now he collaborates with scientists for experiments. And he's a daredevil. If he sees an anaconda, you know what he does? He jumps in the river and grabs the anaconda by its head. On top of the anaconda, he rides the anaconda. That kind of guy. So I was fascinated because I wanted to know something about him. What did he see? Because in our scriptures there is this description of the Mahiravana in the Ramayana. The whole Lanka of Ravan became gold because golden buildings, everything was gold, Swarna Lanka. And Prabhupada explained that the gold that he got was from an underground tunnel all the way through the center of the earth on the other side. And on Google Earth, even now, if you go and see, there is a tool by which you can say pierce through the earth tool. So if you point at one point on the earth, what is the diametrically opposite point? It shows you. So if you do it on Sri Lanka, you will get South America. So it kind of matches, right? And then there was this cave, which I read about in the Indradyumna Swami, for whatever it's worth. Indradyumna Swami's book called Drums Along the Amazon. So he went to the rainforest with his devotees, and they came to a place where the tribes there told the devotees that don't go further because inside nobody goes there. There is a cave which is guarded by dragons and mystical creatures which nobody dares to go near. And if you go, nobody has survived. Whoever has gone there has died. So, there are descriptions, and of course in that book, Drums Along the Amazon, there was this, what is it called that? Inference made that this could be the cave that actually goes down all the way, that underground cave all the way to Lanka. Now, so I was thinking, what did he find there? So I was just curious. So I was hearing that podcast. And he was mentioning that the Amazon is like a churn of death. It's a machine of death. Every moment just death. Everything is just eating everything else. That's the forest. And in the churn of death, you are just a flash. Your life is a flash in the churn of death. That's how he described it. I think he wrote a book also about his experiences. So my point was, the forest is an unforgiving place. Yeah. But sages went there for peace. Because what is more unforgiving than a forest is the city. They call it a concrete jungle, and the most dangerous animal is there in the city, the human beings. Because I think the lions or the whales, the apex predators of the animal kingdom, or the polar bear, the apex predators in all these biomes don't match the kind of danger that the humans pose to the entire planet as a whole. So, the material world is a place of danger anywhere, whether in the city or in the forest. Yeah? So, but anyway, human beings used to go to these places and do tapasya. That's what this Bhūloka is for. But in the heavenly planets, there's too much enjoyment, and with it comes a lot of distraction. And let's just see what else they said. 4:19-24, especially this verse. Na yatra vaikuntha katha sudha pada na sadhavo bhagavatasthadashraya na yatra yagne shamatha mahotsava suresha lokopi na vaisa sevyatam. An intelligent person does not take interest in a place, even in the topmost planetary system, if the pure Ganges or Ganga of topics concerning the Supreme Lord's activities does not flow there. What? An intelligent person is not interested in a place where there is no Harikatha, where there is no river of Harikatha. And this metaphor is also very important. Okay, we will go through that. So he says, if the pure Ganga of the topics of the Supreme Lord is not there, does not flow there, an intelligent person is not interested. Or if there are not devotees engaged in service on the banks of such a river of piety, or if there are no festivals of Sankirtan Yajna to satisfy the Lord, especially since Sankirtan Yajna is recommended at this age. So if there is no Yajna, if there is no sacrifice for Vishnu or Krishna, if there is no devotees and if there is no Harikatha, an intelligent person is not interested in such a place. Now, the metaphor. Civilizations often came along the banks of rivers for many, many years, for many, many millennia, yugas. It has always been this way, that when there is river, then there is settlement, human settlements. So that's the lifeline of the entire civilization, the rivers. Because with water, everything, the agriculture can happen, the water necessities which we all have can happen. Everything is there around the river. So, for the devotees, what is the lifeline? The river is the pure Ganga of topics of Krishna. Harikatha, Krishna Katha is the lifeline, the river along which devotees can gather. The devotees engaged in service on the banks of such a river of piety. So if our movement has to grow, if our movement has to flourish, then the river should not dry up. There should not be an absence of Harikatha, which is why reading is so important. Those who do not read, their exit from Krishna consciousness is assured. It's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time. So, if there is no Harikatha, if there is no reading, if there is no class, if there is nothing, no hearing, like you see, so many temples are there in India. Out of respect, we go there, of course, holy places. But if there is no Katha, Harikatha, Shravanam, everybody goes for darshan. Where is Shravan? Where is Shravan? Only eyes you're going to see, but the Lord is only seen by the ear. The Lord is not seen by the eyes. Shruteshita Patha, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually wrote extensively on this. Shruteshita Patha means seen through the hearing. So, Asya Shruteshita Patho Nananatha Pumsam. So the Lord is described as Shruteshita Patha. To reach Him, how to see Him. Ikshita means to see, Shruta means hearing. So we are seen through hearing. Even Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, we have to see the sadhu also by hearing, not by seeing. Not that he has a shaven head or long hair or beard and saffron cloth and that is a sadhu. No, he can be an idiot, number one. The moment he speaks, that's when you know what he is, where he is. Of course, you must know what is actually the criterion, the rubric of a sadhu, like how should he behave. If we know the standards, then we can check against the standards. Otherwise, we're just hearing, we don't know what the standard is, we don't know what the measuring yardstick is, and we just hear, oh yeah. That's how gullible people get, wholesale swept away by these cheating gurus, who just are very expert in word jugglery. And I think there's a 12th canto tradition of sadhus in this age. If one is a very good juggler of words, then he will be considered a great sadhu. So in this way, we go, and that's why we should know what the standard is. So from the scriptures, we know what the standard is, what a sadhu is, who God is, what is scripture, what is actually the goal of life. Not that all this is to be discovered. Like they say, oh, religion is so rigid, whereas spirituality is very flexible and fluid. They like the idea of not surrendering and they want to explore. How long do you want to explore? Explore for what? You want to find the destination or just keep exploring? If you're keeping exploring, you're not actually an explorer. You're not a seeker at all. If you're not actually seeking for some goal, if you always want it to be vague, if you always want it to be the nondescript, goal, then that means you're not a seeker actually. Seeker means you're seeking something. You must know what that something is. It has to be definable at least, if there is a word like that. But if you can't even define, and if you don't want to define, and the moment somebody defines, oh, that's too rigid. That's stupidity. If there's no target, okay, have Google Maps and go to your destination. Without destination, it won't even show you the route. You have to have a destination. So it has to be defined. It has to be rigid. I'm sorry, people don't like it when they say, it's not flexible. Oh, that's rigid. That's, like so many rules, and because they don't want to follow. They just want to unhinged. They don't want to be tethered to anything. But we can't be like that, right? We actually cannot be. We are tethered to something. We are dependent. We are not independent like Krishna. Krishna is untethered. He is Swaraj. He can do whatever he likes. He is not dependent on his existence on something else. We have to. We need food. So we are already bound by rules. Even if I want to fly, I can't with my body. Of course, now they have got the airplanes and everything. But then still there is limitation. You are allowed a little bit freedom, a little bit, not too much. Because we can't go like, Van Allen belt. I think you have heard about it, right? The radiation belt around I think about 30,000 miles, or I don't know how high above the earth. There is this Van Allen belt, which the astronomers say. You can't even cross as humans. We can't cross that without being thoroughly beaten by the radiation. We will probably disintegrate. I don't know what will happen if we are exposed to that radiation belt. What is that? That is actually Krishna's way of limiting our movement. So even if we say that, oh, I have defied the laws of physics, now I can fly. Okay, how much? Still within the boundaries. And even if I can go like the Munis, and they still also are within the limits of the material universe, the universal shell. Only pure devotees like Narada, he can go full freedom. He can go without any, problem to the spiritual or the material world, anywhere. So that freedom only to the Supreme Lord and His devotee. So we have to be tethered. So I cannot say I will not follow any rules. First of all, you have a body which has if there is no rule, there is anarchy. Nobody wants to live in an anarchy. If our body has no rule, then it's a complete mess. It means you don't know where to put your food, you don't know what will happen, nothing, there's no system. There has to be a system for something predictable to be there. So anyway, there is a system. That's a sad truth for these so-called explorers, vagabonds, spiritual vagabonds. They're actually not exploring. They're just vagabonds. So Shruti Shita, we have to hear from. It's not hearsay. Hearsay is when you hear from unauthorized sources. But from the Shabda Brahma, which is the source is Krishna, through the Parampara system, that is the bona fide source, which is unquestionable. Some of the things can be verified, validated by our experience, some cannot. Some just cannot. And even if they verify, sometimes that's why scientists, they try to explore things with their instruments, whether the microscope or the telescope, either way, if they go for the exploration, they may sometimes coincide with our Vedic descriptions. For example, Markandeya Puran and the Bhagavatam describes the development of the child within the womb. Now, until 1956, there was no scans of the embryo or the womb, and they did not know what was happening. They just heard from religious sources, and that was in the Western world maybe not much description, but in our Vedas there's a very, very more clear than the scans actually. What is happening, which day the nails are coming, which day the nerves are forming, everything is mentioned. So we have such intricate knowledge of things that are unobservable by our human eyes, and even with these scans, it's just a vague picture you will get. It's not like very, very clear. And forget about what is going on in the mind of that soul in that as a fetus. So we don't even know. But Bhagavatam knows what he's thinking. Now you may think, how can he think? He doesn't know alphabets, but shlokas are there of what the soul is thinking in the womb. How can he doesn't even know, hasn't even gone to school yet, what are you talking about? But actually he knows. He forgets when he comes out. That's the time he forgets because of Maya's envelope. He just forgets everything. And he cries because of the intense pain. And he forgets whatever was his past. It's like if I get injured in an accident, if it's very severe enough, then I may actually forget how the accident even took place. They go into this unconsciousness state, and then it's actually a coping mechanism. Otherwise, it's too haunting and traumatic that we forget. Actually, it's Krishna's mercy that we forget our past lives. Otherwise, we are unable to deal with the problems of this one life. Imagine if we remember our 100 past lives. We will be forever depressed. Nothing we can do. It's actually His mercy that we don't remember. And those who do remember, it haunts them. If they do not know the science, it haunts them. And they're always in this dilemma, whether this is my family or that is my belonging, where do I belong? And all those things haunt them, like there are documentaries. The most famous one I think on YouTube is that Second World War pilot, and he was born again, and he always used to, his name in that life and this life was Jason, just like Bharat Maharaj and Jada Bharat. James, I think, James. So that was James, here also James, but he knew everything, how he died. He was shot by the Japanese, he said everything. He just plunged in his aircraft, plummeted to the ground. So, and that haunted him. He did not know what to do with that. And he always identified with that life, and his parents were having a problem because he was not actually present in this life and he doesn't consider them his own so much. And then, they had this. So that's what happened. Imagine if I remember 100 lives. So they say, oh, we don't remember, there's nothing happened. Glad you don't remember. Otherwise you won't be able to live. So it actually, the so-called deficiency that we don't remember is actually a blessing because we can't handle that past. Krishna remembers everything. Krishna said, I remember everything, but you don't, Arjuna. Because if you did, then Krishna has no trauma from the remembrance. We do. We would have if we have. So anyway, we have to know about Krishna and about the universe, everything from Krishna. Because he is the engineer after all. So whether it's the Bhūmandala or the heavenly planets or the situation of life in the heavenly planets or within our bodies, especially Jiva Goswami said in the Tattvavit dāsa, the topics concerning the insides of our body, how our body works, and the far distance, which is the astronomical movements, the only source is the Vedas for that knowledge. Other observable realities can sometimes be corroborated with our experience. So we are given a little bit access, but we're not given access to every layer of experience there is. So we have to rely on such descriptions and also just see how nicely the description here is of the mountains, the mountain ranges of Sumeru mountain and the adjacent mountain, surrounding mountain ranges, and how it looks like this whole Yajna Kunda, reminding us of sacrifice. It's just beautiful. And another thing about the Yojana, which is calculated as Prabhupada said 8 miles, and how did that come about? What is that? I read this, I haven't seen a shloka yet, but I read about this, that Yojana apparently is the distance covered by an ox around that Methi, oil pressing device, where the seeds are there in the center, and then there's this. Actually, you can watch videos how they press oil in India, in the villages. So they have this bull, ox, which goes round that thing. So it's tied to a wooden pole and then the axis, and that churns the seeds, and then the oil is produced. So apparently, it's the distance that the ox covers in a single day is called one yojana, apparently. And apparently that would be approximately 8 miles. So that's about 13 kilometers. So there are some theories among devotees that when there is description of yojana, the size of the universe is apparently 4 billion miles, 500,000 yojanas. Now, according to modern scientists, that's very small. Not even the Milky Way galaxy is, Milky Way galaxy is many orders of magnitude bigger than that. And this is just one of the unlimited number of galaxies there are in the universe, is what they say. So how does even the size of our universe match with the Vedic descriptions? So there are a few ideas among the devotee community, one of which is the Hall of Mirrors effect, which if you go into a Hall of Mirrors, then it looks infinitely big, although it can be actually very small. Because of the mirrors, it can look infinitely big. So that kind of illusion probably is possible, that makes it look very big. Another is the yojana. If it's 8 miles, and if it's because the ox travels that much distance in one day, what about the ox in the heavenly planets? Like if time is relative, if 1 second here is 1 second, 1 second in Brahma's life or the heavenly, and 1 second here is totally different, then is the distance also different? Is the yojana different in the heavenly planets? Like I can't say it takes this much time to go to the end of the universe and come back. It probably changes due to my speed. It also changes due to my subtle advancement. There's a beautiful description in that. On this online nobody can see, but the Bhūloka chart that we have there. So I was actually reading some of that Brihad Bhagavatamrita verses which were written there, and I went into the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, actually read the whole chapter. So the Gopakumar, he goes from the material world to the spiritual world, and the descriptions of all the planetary systems are there, and even the coverings of the universe are described, and the spiritual world above that, beyond that. Now, after he saw the Lord, he came back to the material world to show gratitude to his Guru. So the first time he went to the spiritual world, he went to all the planetary systems one by one, and then went to Krishna Loka. But then he came back down to show his gratitude, and then he wanted to express his gratitude to every denizens of all the planets in whose association he advanced further and further. So as he was going, he mentioned one thing. He said, the same distance which I am covering again through these planets, I am able to move at such a fast pace now that I could not before. It took me ages and ages and ages, eons to reach another planet. Now I can just go in seconds. So that means speed depends on not just the rocket, they say speed of light is the fastest, but actually not. Because speed of the mind is faster, and spiritual speed, the speed of the soul, is even faster. So when one is spiritually advanced, like Narad Muni, it looks like teleportation, because you can just disappear and appear somewhere else, just like that. It's actually just speed of travel, but in subtle ways they travel. So subtle traveling mechanisms there are, and as one is more and more advanced, one gains access to these kind of systems. Even the yogis who are not as pure as Narad Muni, of course, even they move through pathways or corridors, so to speak, from the earth to the heavenly planets, to the hellish planets. They can ride the sunlight, sun rays. They can ride the pathway of the rivers, the Ganga. They can flow upstream if they want. So all these kind of things they sound mystical, they sound mythological even. Physically present in the Bhagavad Gita. So they go, all these descriptions are there, even in our Bhagavatam. So many sages, they went different. So all these different things, they may sound mythological or just fantasy, fiction. But great sages who are not interested in fiction, they're not interested. Why would they be interested in some Harry Potter kind of book, which talks about these supernatural powers, but it's just like inconsequential. There's no application in real life. Nothing. What is the use of that? So it's not just because they cannot do, but they just want to enjoy that in their fantasies that they write those things. No, it's actually possible. And see the language in which they write. That's why it's called Sanskrit. Yesterday I was hearing a Prabhupada class where I was explaining what is the meaning of the word Sanskrit. Sam means samyak. Samyak means complete. And krita means activity. So Sanskrita means very, very completely refined. Most refined language. At many levels. Not just the grammar. English actually is a very, very barbaric language, honestly. But it has just become the most widely known language now. Honestly, it's a very, very backward language. Even the rules of English are so bad. Even Prabhupada was mentioning PUT is put and BUT is put. Like, what is the logic? Rough. The F sound, F is not even there. ROUGH, rogue. But then it's rough. There's zero logic, even in the spellings. And then if you see the order of the alphabets and compare that to the order of the alphabets in Sanskrit, there is a science to it. Right? Our vocal system is connected to the sounds that are in the order of the alphabets in Sanskrit. A, B. What? Like, there's absolutely zero logic in the whole A, B, C, D. The mouth, the tongue is just moving all over the place. It's a wild thing going on. Like, what is it even? So Sanskrita means it's the most refined, completely refined. And the script is called Devanagari. What does Devanagari means? What is Devanagari means? Right? Use some brain math. What is Deva? What is Nagar? Deva means what? Deva means what? Huh? Thank you. At least so use some brain. No, I don't know. What is it? Don't know. Use some brain. Deva means demigod. Nagar means what? Nagar. Huh? Sage? Huh? Snake. Oh, no. Naga means snake. But at least you see, he's thinking. Nagar means city. City. Nagari means the denizens of the city. Devanagari means the denizens of the heavenly cities, heavenly planets. So that means this language is so perfect that it's actually the language of the heavenly planets. They say, oh, this is Hindi or this is Indian language. No, it's an alien language. It's actually alien. I mean, it's coming from extraterrestrial, whatever the ET is. They think alien means some green little man, some weird shape, horrible looking face. Yeah, maybe in the hellish planets, but in the heavenly planets, they're much more beautiful. For them, we are like that, ugly. So it's a very refined language. So the sounds are very fixed. If it is sir means it's sir. If you write that alphabet, that's it. There is no other pronunciation for that. And the way that these verses are composed, there are rules. In English, there is no rule for poem. You can just, there is some rule, some rhyming at the end should be there. And A, B, rhyming structure. Or A, B. That means the first two lines rhyme, the second two lines rhyme. Or the first and third line rhyme. And second and fourth lines rhyme. So that's called a scheme. A, B scheme, A, B scheme, A, C scheme. So like that. But here, look at this. Like, let's see this verse. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja ase shrute shita patho nanunatha pumsam yat dhriyata urugaya vibhavayanti tat vapuru pranayase sadanugrahaya. So there are 14 syllables in each of these lines, and not just the number of syllables, where the dirgha and where the laghu is there, depending on that the tune is there. If it is different position of the dirgha and laghu, like tvam, is actually a dirgha sound. It's a guru sound. Guru means heavy or longer. And bhakti is more laghu. Yo is dirgha. Ga is again laghu. Bha is again dirgha. So like that. In the 14 syllables, 7th syllable, 8th syllable or the second syllable is dirgha. This much stricture is there, and every verse that is 14 syllables will have the exact same structure. And each of them have separate tunes. And all the sages who composed it, 5,000 years ago this was composed. And they had such exquisite poetry in their language. Imagine. And that is another level, right? First the pronunciation, then the structure, how it is. Of course, there is also prose, which is just sentences, not like verses. But also, there is this, the verses. But also next, the words have meaning. Like if you say son in English, like father and son. First of all, the spelling is S-O-N, son. And the S-U-N is sun, but it's both pronounced as son, there's no logic. But apart from that, there's no other meaning to that. Son, father, son. Putra in Sanskrit. Punnama Narakat Trayate iti putra. There's definition. Pu and Tra, it's actually an acronym. Pu refers to Punnama, Punnamno Naraka. There is a hell called Pun. Tra means Trayate, one who releases. Trayate means release. So one who releases his father from going to hell, he is a putra. How much meaning? And if he does not do that, he is mutra. Mutra means urine. Both come from the same place. The sun and the urine. So if he does not fulfill that duty, he is as good as urine. How much meaning? This is called Sanskrit. Most refined. Pronunciation, the structure of the language, and the meaning, the depth of meaning in each of these words. That's why Nana Arthakoi, what is that? If we study Bhagavatam like this, that's why Sanskrit is so important. Even for devotees, if you know the English translation, you know the English translation. But if you know the Sanskrit, you will have a very all-round understanding, very in-depth understanding of that verse. Prabhupada wanted, actually yesterday's lecture also Prabhupada was saying, please try to learn these verses. You see, Krishna Tulya Bhagavat, Madhya, CC Madhya 24, 318. Krishna Tulya Bhagavat Vibhu Sarvashray Prati Shloke Prati Akshare Nana Arthakoi. Srimad Bhagavatam is as great as Krishna, the Supreme Lord and shelter of everything. In each and every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam and in each and every syllable there are various meanings. So when Prabhupada explains one thing, he explains in one way, but if you see the purport, sometimes he explains an alternate meaning and a different meaning of the same verse. And Acharya is explaining in different ways the same verse, he explains like that the purports. Sanskrit. So, this is so important. That's why, of course, Krishna created all languages. Krishna created the English also. Krishna created the language of the birds and the beasts as well, and Krishna could communicate with all of them, right? Perfect linguist is one of the 64 qualities of Krishna. So he was such a perfect linguist that he can even converse with the animals.
You said Krishna made a language, he knows a language, man, he's saying man-made things, but man is kind of adulterated language.
What is it? I did not hear.
See how you hear for man-made things, like
Man-made.
Man-made sea.
Man.
Man-made. You know, you said Krishna made languages, like say, the English language was man-made. It's adulterated language.
Yeah. It's morphed. The previous English was sounding very different. Way back, many centuries back, it was sounding very different. Now it sounds much different. And even we saw from what we learned, at least what I learned in school, to now what is going on in the SMS language. I mean those text languages, all the shortcuts and different things they use, acronyms. Yeah, texting language is so different already. Deterioration language. All kinds of tribes. In fact, it was said that in Mahabharata, Yudhishthir Maharaj was speaking to Vidura in the presence of his mother, Kunti. But he did not want his mother to know what he was speaking, because she would be anxious and whatever. So he was talking to Vidura in a tribal language that was not understood by Kunti Devi. So it was a different language, definitely not Sanskrit, but he was speaking that language. So he was very conversant, very fluent in that language as well. So likewise, Krishna, Rupa Goswami was fluent in Arabic, Persian languages, because at that time Muslims were there and they actually enforced. I was actually wondering, how come Rupa Goswami was a scholar in Arabic? Where is he and where is Arabia? So later on, just recently, like maybe 2 years, 1 year ago, 1.5, is when I knew a little more about the history of India. Unfortunately, we were taught some stupid history in our textbooks in India, which is very distorted. But recently I came to know about how the Muslims actually, from Arab, they came to India and they made it a compulsory thing that everybody has to learn Arabic. Otherwise, you cannot. If you have the official language was Arabic, they of course spoke their own language in the house, but when they have to speak to any government officer or anything, they have to know it's official language. They have to be taught in schools as well. So of course there was exposure to Arabic, and they had those Muslim Nawab Hussain Shah ruler there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu time. There were ministers under them. So yeah, I mean the word mamsa, meat. What is the meaning? Mam saha khadati iti mamsa. It means mam means me, saha means he, referring to the animal. So mam saha khadati iti mamsa. You can understand, right? Kha in Hindi also is eating. Khadati means eat. So I am killing him and eating him now, so I am giving him the right to eat me in the next life. The whole law of karma is there in that one word. This is called Sanskrit. The depth of meaning when you say mamsa, you should shudder in fear to read that. If you know actually what it means. So the whole thing, how nicely it is geared toward spiritual life. Like Putra gears you towards spiritual life. Oh, you have to be religious. I cannot do sins. I must help my father go to heaven, and from there, of course, to Krishna. So in this way, there is, if one is devotee, of course, the whole family goes back. So in this way, there is so much meaning. And the Bhūmandala, the structure of these mountains, also has meaning like this. Like they look like the Yajna Kunda, the 4 mountain ranges, and the Sumeru mountain, the golden mountain like the fire in the center, the land of sacrifice. Actually, I should have got the picture. It's not ready yet. It's there somewhere. But I should have next time the picture so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's like very nicely there. So even the creation that Krishna makes, he puts so many lessons inside his creation. But only when we hear from the Guru, when we hear from the spiritual master and the Shastra, we will be able to see those lessons everywhere. Just the other day we were in Puducherry, and I was just looking out the balcony of the temple, and all the birds were flying. Here we don't see so many birds flying. In India we see a lot of birds flying in groups. Here, I think they shoot all the birds. I don't know what they do, but you don't find them in. One pigeon comes and passes through, and then another comes like this. There's no you don't see the whole thing going. So when the birds were all flying like that in a nice formation, and the one leader bird was there. So that instruction of Prabhupada which says, the whole Ritik system is there, you see. Why? Because Prabhupada said the Guru is like the leading bird, and all the followers are like the following birds. It's not that, I have a pure devotee Guru, so I'm going back to Godhead. I'm initiated Prabhu, I'm going back to Godhead. No. Prabhupada said every disciple has to flap its own wings. So the Guru is like the leader bird showing the path. But then all the following birds have to follow the path given by the leader, but they have to flap their own wings. If they don't flap like this, they fall down straight like a stone. So I have to do my part. If I don't follow the instructions of the Guru, I'll fall down. So the birds flying, you can just remember all these things. Prabhupada gave a Ritik system. If we just follow, they will be nicely flowing like that. And if not, our whole movement will go down. So everything can remind us of Krishna. Like there are so many examples. There are 24 gurus mentioned in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam. But where is that? Actually, there are not just 24. There is everything can remind us of the Krishna. Because so what happens here is we actually learn from Prabhupada, from Guru, from the Shastra, and then when we see the world, those same instructions will reflect from those objects, from those people, from those whatever. What are the examples given in the Shastra? When we see that example, like tree, Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Sahishnana, humble as a grass, tolerant as a tree. Just look at the tree and think about its life. We get bored sitting in one place. He has to stand his whole life, not just stand for his whole life in one place. Forget about all the seasons and all that thing. Stand in one place. Our mind is not as fixed. So we must be actually fixed in Krishna consciousness, like the tree is. And tolerant. I mean, the weathers. Here, Singapore, same weather. You go to Russia. I think Latvia is up there in the north, right? Very cold. Minus what in winter? Minus 30. Summer plus 30, right? 25. In some places, it's the minus 30 plus 25. It's a 55 degrees shift between winter and summer. How much shift? The trees have to stand there. I went in Russia in summer. I went. The leaves were just falling because it was going to be winter. The leaves already. Some trees, it's white. The whole tree is like white. I don't know what trees they are, but white. I think it's the boreal forest. I don't know the boreal forest probably. But it's the most extensive forest on earth. Boreal forest. It's the pine trees, the conical trees that are all along the northern hemisphere, the up north, extreme north. So anyway, so all that, the leaves were out and it has to stand at minus 30. And in summer, the leaves come back again. You have to be alive. Minus 30 like that. Unforgiving climate conditions. So just see Tattvavit dāsa. And we have to, why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that example. So if we then come back to our life, compare that to the tree. How much can we tolerate? Little bit, 1 or 2 degrees also is very only. No, I'm not talking about temperature. I'm not talking about somebody slightly offended me. I become all, my whole mind is like I cannot sleep. I'm just having, anger for nothing. Nothing. Where is the tolerance? And the other side is something good happens, and I'm all excited about it. Again, that's a distraction. Tattvavit dāsa. Whether it's summer or winter, don't move an inch like the tree. How? And if somebody is cutting the branch, you cannot protest. Just stand there. So somebody is like anything, So we can learn a lot if we just observe. In fact, our brain works like the tree. Our knowledge works like the tree. That's a whole different subject. My settle casting system that I'm following now. Actually, it has a lot of system understanding on the tree. Anyway, it's a whole different topic. But Pranada Pisunicha, the grass, humbler than the grass. I mean, everybody stepping on me. Like somebody steps on me, I just be humble. That's it. Not protest. Not okay, fine. I deserve all of that. I mean, millions of lives I forgot Krishna. Do I deserve a prize or what? I should be trampled. Yeah. So if I think like that, if I just zoom out and not have too much, if I don't give too much attention to my bodily situation, and I understand actually I'm soul, this body is just like a temporary thing. From the viewpoint of eternity, it's inconsequential. It's very, very fleeting, very flickering. It does not require, it does not deserve that attention that we give it. This body does not deserve that much attention. In a microscope, the smallest thing will appear very big. Oh, it's so important. Oh, it's so big. So when we look at our own life from a microscope, then everything looks big, everything like big things in life. But actually, zoom out a little bit, it's not that much important. What is more important is, what is actually important is our opportunity. One human life, we have this opportunity, and before it ends, it's going to end. Before it ends, make the best out of it. Every birthday that we have, people celebrate, but actually what it is It's a warning. You know, when you go reverse in a vehicle, beep, 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 beep. As you go closer to the wall, beep, 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 beep. The last one will be beep. That means you're absolutely close. I mean, anything more, you will hit the wall. Our birthdays are like that. Each birthday is a beep, beep, and it's just accelerating. The sound is just becoming more frequent. We're just closing in on death. It's a warning system. Our birthday is a warning system. But we celebrate. Yay! I'm going closer to death. I'm 1 year closer to death. Yes, we'll have party. What is partying? You get a news or you have cancer, you have like 2 years. Or say 6 months, you have 6 months. You are celebrating, yay! I'm 6 months closer to death. Every month I'll celebrate 5 months more. Do I do that? What is celebrating? What is a celebration? So, in our Vedic system, the celebration of a birthday is by doing more service. Like when Lord Ramchandra was born, Dashrath gave so much charity. So much. That is proper celebration. Yes. My life is meant for service, let's do more service. That's proper celebration. But if I want to be served on my birthday, then in the West, that's what we are taught. In the West, it is all, you get gifts, you receive gifts on a birthday. But in the Vedic culture, they give more on a birthday. They do more on a birthday. Because the real Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani, Jathare Shayanam, Iha Samsare, Bahudustare, Kripaya Pare, Pahi Murare. So Punarapi Jananam, again birth, again death, again Punarapi Janani, Jathare Shayanam, lying in the womb of the mother again, birth again, death again, lying in the womb of the mother again. This is not very nice business. What are we celebrating? First of all, death is coming, we are celebrating a warning. Next, if you see in another way, no, it's not about warning, it's about, okay, then you are celebrating your anniversary of imprisonment. Because if I am sent to the jail, okay, 20 years for you in jail, and I go into the jail, and then after 1 year, 1 year jail, then 2 years in jail, 2 years in jail, is that a celebration, cause of celebration? So this body is a imprisonment. We are here for a sentence, we don't know how long is that sentence. And now I am 10 years into the sentence, 10 years, yay, 20 years, I made it 50 years in the prison. Whichever way you look at it, not worth celebrating. The only value in this life, human life, is that we can become Krishna conscious and go back to Godhead. That is worth celebrating. That is worth celebrating. That after millions and millions of lives in animal and plant and insect life, finally I have received human life. That's a cause for celebration, only if I use it as a human life. But if I live like an animal, what is the word? What is the use of celebrating this thing? And that celebration means, I have an opportunity to make my life perfect. Yes, that's the only good in human life. Only good. And if you can use that, then that's perfect. And in Bhumandala, this is possible, very easy. Of course, another thing I want to talk about, but I don't have time. It's just that, I'll just mention it as a short mention. It's just that, the Sumeru mountain, all these mountain ranges are so high, 80,000 miles high. And we are in the Jambudvipa, the first concentric circle of land around these mountain ranges. And the Sumeru mountain is 800,000 miles high. Is it not? Yeah, out of which 20,000 is 720,000 miles high. How high that should be? But we don't see it. We see the sun and the moon, which is in the heavenly planetary system, but we don't see this mountain, which is on the earthly planetary system itself. But if it is that tall, somewhere it should be visible, right? But we don't. So then we must start to question, is it really there? The astronomers go out and see nothing they find. No golden mountain. Forget about it. So where is it? How is it? So, if you even in the Bhagavatam, the Himalayas are mentioned as 80,000 miles high. 80,000 miles. You know what is the circumference of the earth? 24,000 kilometers, which is like maybe less than 20,000 miles. The Himalayas are 80,000 miles. So what is the Bhagavatam talking about? So that means there is a layer of experience which we are not experiencing. The known highest mountain that we know, Mount Everest, is 8.8 kilometers high, which is 5.5 miles high. 5.5 miles compared to 80,000 miles. What happened to 79,995 miles? What happened? Where is it? Well, it is actually understood to be the subtle mountain range. Because you must understand one thing, the earth, the water, the fire, the air, ether, that the gross material elements which we can see also exist in the subtle realm. They do exist. That means there is a subtle version of earth, subtle version of water, subtle version of air. Air is always subtle, even more subtle. Subtle version of fire. Otherwise, when Brahma came down in Brahmaloka, his whole body and the entire planet is just made of mind and intelligence. It's so fine, it's so subtle, only mind and intelligence. But when Brahma came down, when all the different Brahmas came down to see Krishna, they bowed down, their helmets, golden helmets, touched the ground and they made so much noise. It is said there, Bhagavatam. Not Bhagavatam, I think this is Lalita Madhava, if I'm not wrong. Or is it Bhagavatam? Anyway, when they bow down with their heads, so much noise. How can there be noise when Brahma's body is said to be made of only mind and intelligence and false ego? Mano buddhimayam, that means only mind and intelligence. Of course, false ego is there almost nil. Mind and intelligence. That means he has no gross body like us. How can his crown ting sound can come? How? That means that metal, that gold, is a subtle gold. In fact, in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it is mentioned, we know that from our Bhagavatam that this universe has a tight shell, right? Earth layer, water layer, 10 times each bigger than the previous. But you know what the Brihad Bhagavatamrita says? That earth layer that is surrounding the top of the Brahmaloka is actually a subtle earth layer. And the life there is more opulent than Brahmaloka. And the Bhūdevi is worshipping Varahadeva, who lifted the earth here. In the earth layer, Varahadeva is worshipped by Bhūdevi as a predominant deity there. And all the inhabitants worship. There are inhabitants there in the earth layer. Imagine. So, it is very different from what we experience here. So probably, for some reason, we cannot see the Meru mountain. Be subtle. Forget about Meru mountain. Our Himalayas, 80,000 miles, the 79,995 miles are missing in action. Where are they? Subtle. It is said that Vyasadeva is there in the Himalayas. And apparently, in Badrinath, there are 5 Badris. And he is in the 5th most exalted Badri, which is called Uttara Badri. And apparently he is there in the Uttara Badri region, which is inaccessible to ordinary humans. What does that inaccessible to ordinary human means? Subtle region. And in the Mahabharata we have description of the Pandavas, the Bhima, he went through the Himalayan ranges to the Gandharva. That means there are passages from the Himalayas to the heavenly planets. And even in Surya Siddhanta, according to which our current Tithi and all this calendar is calculated, that book explains that the Himalayas are the heavenly planets, South America has Patala, and Norway, those regions have something else. What does that actually mean? The meaning is that from these places on earth, there are portals to those regions in the universe. So from the Himalayas, there are portals to the heavens. And from the South America, definitely along the banks of the Amazon, are the portals to hell. I mean, the subterranean heavenly planets. Going down. And down there are, the Rasatal. In the Rasatal planet, planetary system, there are these Nagas, the Nagas, extraordinarily big snakes. And if you see in the Amazon, there is the anaconda, which is a huge snake. Of course, it's nothing compared to the ones in Nagaloka, but the biggest snake is there in the Amazon. I mean, there is some similarity in what portals it has access to. So in this way, there is a much more mystery to this world than what the scientists want us to believe. And such mystery we can understand from Bhagavatam. This is not simply some mythology. This is a very, very great science that the scientists are yet to discover. Imagine, 5,000 years ago, Markandeya Purana, in the Bhagavatam, that description of the womb of the mother was actually Lord Kapiladev speaking to his mother. That means it was spoken many millions of years ago, at least 2 billion years ago. 2 billion years ago. Huh? That means 2 billion years ago, they knew what was in the womb of the mother. They found out the CT scans and all these scans, ultrasound, 1956. 1956. Then only they started to scan. So imagine in 1900 or 1955, before the scan came. If you read the descriptions of the womb, who knows, it's all mythology. I can say, right? But when the scan comes, oh, yeah, it matches actually. Actually, here there is more description than on the scan, right? Like when the fingers come, when the hairs come, scans cannot tell you that. Not so accurately. Until 6 weeks, there is no scan. Scan is not possible. It's not even so big. Cannot be even identified for until 6-7 weeks. Here, first night, 5th night, 10th day, what is happening is already mentioned. And how the child feels when the mother eats something salty or spicy and then it hits the skin. Imagine if your skin is not formed, if suppose some wound happens and your skin is gone, and you put chili there, salt there, the child feels like that inside. So, very delicate skin. It's not like this nicely thick like buffalo. So the child feels also. How the child feels, there's no description in the scans. They just say, oh, some shape is there. Yeah. Happy. That's all. And then sometimes, most of the time, they say, oh, something is wrong with your child. Although everything is alright. It's a headache going there. Better just wait until the thing and then come on nicely. All this, I think, hell. So what my point is, these things are already happening. Science discovered in 1956 what is happening inside, to an extent, 2 billion years ago, B, not M, B. 2 billion years ago, it was said as a matter of fact, like a normal thing it was said. 2 billion years ago. How much more advanced? So, many things may be discovered 2 billion years later, who knows? But it is already mentioned in the Bhagavatam, how the Bhumandala, how the mountain ranges, and these subtle ranges and all these portals to different planets, already there. Just because modern science says, does not accept it, does not mean, oh no, if I speak about it, I look like a fool, I better not speak about it, these things look like, I look like an idiot. No, they are idiots. We will just continue with our descriptions and we will have full faith in this because he is the engineer, Krishna, and he is describing Krishna Tulya Bhagavat. Krishna Tulya Bhagavat. Bhagavatam is describing the planetary systems and Krishna Tulya Bhagavat. So Krishna is describing the planetary systems. Of course, Shukadeva Goswami is doing it. Where did he get the knowledge from? Krishna. You will accept. 2 billion years later, when humans say there was Sumeru mountain, there is Sumeru mountain. If they say, then all people who said there is no Sumeru mountain are idiots. And if we as devotees say that, yeah, actually there is no Sumeru mountain, that's I don't want to speak about that part of the Bhagavatam, let's speak about other things. I mean, this is another stupid devotee. Stupid devotee who did not have any faith in Bhagavatam. So any questions or comments on the topic? What? So there's one question by Venugopal. Some theories in Google says that Devanagari Lipi is hardly 2000 years old. by showing this, the Christians generally criticize that theirs is the first thing, our language and scriptures written using theirs. Of course, if they want to promote their religion and culture, they have to put down our thing. Otherwise, how can they say that theirs is superior? Of course, they have to put it down. So it's a very cheap argument anyway. We have 5,000-year-old conversation, Krishna and Arjuna Samvad happened, and full Sanskrit and everything. Bhagavatam, everything is in Sanskrit. They must say many things. They say Rigveda is about 3,000 years old, and apparently at the time of the composition of Rigveda there was agriculture because some reference to agriculture was there. So when man was a little bit civilized, he started agriculture already. Right? He knows how to bring rain from the heavens down. You are doing your irrigation system, drip irrigation and this irrigation. He is just bringing the rain from the sky. How? Yajna bhavati parjanya. By doing yajna, sacrifice, he knows that the rains will come on time. And just how much is required. Not ativrishti, not anavrishti. Not too much rain, not less rain. Just the right amount of rain, just in time. So that much control they had because they cooperated with the demigods. The drip irrigation and this irrigation system, you know what it means? I want to control how the watering is done to the plants. I want to do it. Of course, there is need of human intervention is required for agriculture, but the dependence on these macro supplies of water and sunlight given by the demigods. And if you cooperate with the demigods, we don't have to install such huge systems into irrigation tank, this, that, borewell. All these things actually not needed if we know how to. If the civilization is religious and devotees, then Krishna will provide everything. So that was a system they depended on, and they know that that's a much superior system. And also it keeps them on their toes. That means what? They have to be religious all the time. Drip irrigation system on this kind of all the artificial way of controlling, like greenhouse. Of course, we are also having a greenhouse now in the farm because the world is filled with demons. So some thing has to be done to protect it. Of course, we can grow it on the open fields as well, but just that we still have to depend on some of these worldly things because everybody is not religious. Everybody is not religious, so timely rains all will be haywire. Some other man-made devices to kind of stabilize the irrigation and this and that. Even if you have irrigation, if there's no sun, what will happen? Recently there was a podcast of this lady. She actually wrote a book called The Nuclear Winter. Have you heard of this? The Nuclear Winter? No? So, just 2 minutes. So, nuclear winter means when there is a nuclear war, if there is nuclear bombs dropped, then it creates this huge cloud of particles, of everything, and it can stay. And we all think that nuclear war means Hiroshima, and then like all the destruction, the impact, the heat, the light, just the impact is just, that's what we think is the effect of a nuclear war. So this lady says those who die in that moment are the luckiest people if it ever happens. If anybody survives at all this nuclear war, they will go through hell for at least 1 decade, if not a century, if not a millennium. What is that? So the radiation is one thing. But apart from all of that, the most dangerous thing is the nuclear winter. So these clouds that evaporate everything, vaporize even solids, and with the water and everything, it creates this cloud that envelops the earth. And it doesn't matter where the bomb is dropped, it can actually affect the entire earth because of the wind systems. And it will block out the sun for a decade at least, or even sometimes multiple decades, depending on how severe the bombing happened. So for that long, the thick, very, very kilometers thick sometimes, or of clouds will envelop, and the sunlight will never ever reach the earth surface. What crops you can have? What? You will have acid rain. No crops. If anybody's, and the temperature goes down, the winter is unbearable winter, and there's no sun again. There's no summer for decades upon decades upon decades. People will die of the winter more than anything else. So the most torturous part will be the nuclear winter. So, of course, there is a coping mechanism of the earth. It takes many hundreds of thousands of years to again rebuild, kind of vitalize the entire planet with life. But that's extinction of the human race. So that's the technology that scientists are going towards. But we want to understand how the creation. We don't want all this stupid technology. We just want to live a very simple life with cooperation with Krishna through the demigods. If we just do our Sankirtan, even for the devotees, if they just chant, even if the supplies are not so proper, devotees will somehow be supplied the necessities. Our Prabhu is here, Yajna Priya Prabhu, very dear to Yajna. He just came, he is chanting, and now there is some arrangement, he can do some seva. Krishna arranges for his devotees. Wherever if they just do chanting, Krishna will arrange for the supply, for the protection. Somehow, something Krishna will do. So anyway, I'll stop it here. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.